Everyone talks about reforming Nigeria. Almost every political leader, just before they are being elected or in the process, talks about restructuring. But let's actually start with what holds all of it together, what holds all of us together, our bureaucracy. Whether you're applying for a passport, you're bidding on a government contract, or you're trying to get basic data from a government agency, or you need something from a ministry or a department of government, the inefficiencies can be staggering. Today, we're unpacking the Nigerian bureaucracy, how it became like this, how it became broken, and how we can actually join hands together to fix it. Nigeria inherited a colonial bureaucratic model. So, by virtue of that, you can actually imagine what that means or what it could literally translate into. It means it was centralized, it was rigid, and there was hierarchy. Of course, there's always hierarchy, but I mean, it was actually built for control, you know, not necessarily to serve, but to control. And post independence, we layered ethnic balancing, we layered quota system, political patronage, we layered it on that system that we inherited from our colonial masters. And what did we get in return? A bloated, slow, and unaccountable structure. That's what we have. That's why it's very, very easy for you to hear people talking about ghost workers, these, or you have civil servants collecting salaries and they're already jackpot from Nigeria. Make it make sense. But then we have over 500 government agencies, many of them overlapping in functions. And instead of facilitating governance, what are they doing? They've become a bottleneck. They've become an obstacle. One single policy file can pass across through about 10 different desks within 3 months just before it gets approval. So if it's that slow, you can imagine what happens. Concerns are about promotions that are based on tenure and not necessarily on performance. That in itself is a huge concern. Yes, I think it should actually be a concern because it hinders or it doesn't place a premium on productivity. But then, truth be told, the most productive, the best of those our bureaucratic systems, they're an asset, they're a blessing to this country, and that's why you see that even post-service, some of them are still the finest of people that we consult. They're the best wherever they are. But then, how many are them when you take a population sample from the population size? A large percentage of our budget goes on recurrent expenditure. When you see recurrent expenditure, most times you are either paying salaries of civil servants, those in the bureaucratic space, fueling vehicles. In fact, you'd see people, civil servants, directors, deputy directors, permanent secretaries, with government vehicles, fueled by government monies, using those assets for personal use. That's rather unfair, but that's what it is. That's sincerely what it is. Look at how I digress. I actually did digress, but look at how that in itself affects how things are being done. What's the ease of doing business in Nigeria? Where exactly are we? To take how many months for you to get your business registered, get all of the documentations and things in place? Again, it affects our way of life and how easy we get to live our life. Let's make it practical. The inefficiency of our bureaucracy affects and hurts all of us. For small businesses, the delay in registrations and tax identifications and remittance. As citizens, even when you say, I'm retired, it could actually lead to delay in payment of your pensions or gratuity. you know, oh, okay, you're a young person, you want jackpot, your passports can get delayed. Uh, try to apply. Just try to renew your driver's license or apply for your driver's license and see what the process is like. Those kind of things, like, and how long it actually does take. You know, for investors, the red tape in itself, it kills their interest. Oh, this it just kills the interest. Let me just go somewhere else. And concerning innovation, you can imagine when you want to do something, and you necessarily and compulsorily have to do things that you could actually do digitally, you have to do physically. you know One of the things I personally do not like are meetings that, what's it called, they're actually best as emails or text messages. So imagine having to fix a physical meeting for something like that. It can be draining. And yes, so those things stifle innovation, it stifles growth in that regard. So we are now in a situation where what should take minutes in some cases takes weeks, and what should be online is offline, and what should be predictable is now arbitrary. Those are serious issues. But the truth of the matter is that reform is very, very possible. Let's look around. We could actually merge ministries, cut unnecessary roles. We have the Orosanye reports. That report, the white paper, if you look at the report, look at the white paper that the government of that day actually did bring out, many of those recommendations were rejected. And at the end of the day, we even now, present administration was saying they're going to, adopt that report and implement it. But then we have more ministries and agencies of governments being created. We really need to sit down, have robust conversations, cut out what is unnecessary. Some things are better, some ministries are best as departments in some, or agencies in some cases, if those are the things we need to do. But again, it requires a lot of political will. Why? Because you would have to let some people go. That will come with a lot of backlash. But then that's actually the truth of the matter. We need to cut what's unnecessary. We need to cut it off. E-governance platforms, for instance. Let's adopt the use of technology. Let's embrace it in its entirety. Let's use that to clear out a lot of bottlenecks. So let's focus on simplifying our processes. Let's digitize services, and let's promote professionalism within the civil service. Practically, a couple of things that we should do. Let's audit and streamline agencies, just like I said. Let's digitize our processes. Let's introduce KPIs. Yes, I know it sounds weird. Public service, yes, let's introduce KPIs and performance contracts. I know that the president at the point had like a performance contract for permanent secretaries, I think, but then like, what's the state of it? What's the updates? Where exactly are we? These things should actually be used as metrics to actually judge them. You're working and serving the people. You should be accountable. And so if you are expected and mandated to deliver on A, B, and C, how do we measure? If you have failed, what do you get in return? If you succeeded, what do you get in return? These are critical things we should pay attention to. Training and reorientation, we need to heavily invest in training those that work in our civil service. Particularly, we're talking about adoption of technology, we're talking of revamping and simplifying processes. We must invest in ensuring that these are possible. So we must train them, we must rewrite the rule and train them in that regard. Public feedback mechanisms, with leverage, you could leverage platforms like, we could actually leverage social media platforms and other existing traditional media platforms to ensure that there is actually feedback for the media, for the public service or for the civil service. That way they can know what to actually improve upon. Most importantly, reduce political interference. The essence of the civil service is to ensure continuity in when it comes to policy, irrespective of the party in power or the person in power, just to ensure that things are run. There are that administrative the administrative box of our government, they are supposed to be apolitical in that sense. They shouldn't interfere in politics. Political appointees with no sector experience should run those agencies. And yes, in some cases, we should also ensure that we don't just attach political appointees to just having access to classified documents and stuff. Let's rewrite many of those rules. We cannot reform Nigeria until we reform how Nigeria works. And how exactly does Nigeria works? Nigeria works based on how its bureaucratic system runs. The civil servants run this country. So it's how that they run the country, or the tides in the direction that the what's it called, the tilt us all to move, that we actually move. So if we're actually serious about this, we must pay attention to our bureaucratic processes and ensure that we deliver adequate reforms. It's not just about the system, it's about people. Think about the lives of people, think about the businesses of people that actually attach to this. Let's train these people, let them see that their work is not just paper. People's lives are attached. Imagine the person whose pension or gratuity you have refused to process, and the person's file is sitting on your table. The person has children, or the person is retired, which means that the person doesn't have energy to run around. Where is empathy? Where is inclusiveness? As a leader, that will ensure that that person's interest is protected. But yet again, we need to ensure that our civil service caters for our people. Our civil service serves our people and not control them. I hope you learned something, and I'm actually going to see you next time. Bye for now.